Yo, 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 what's good? What's poppin'? Hold up, let me fix my chain. All right. Feeling good, looking good, life's good.
Living good.
Uh, yeah,
Yes,
I need a
yes.
haircut though, but outside of
Bro,
that,
I need a
life's
haircut
good. But
too.
you are now watching Drew Boy Sports Show. I am your host,
hmm
here with the homie and my co-host, the homie Kai. What's poppin', bro?
Hey man, I'm doing good. I am doing good. We just got back off an All-Star weekend. It had some highs, had some lows. We'll get into that too, I'm sure. But I'm
Yeah,
doing good, man. It's other than that, life's good, family's good. So I'm just blessed to be here, as they say, blessed to be here for another day. So yeah.
right. I'm feeling good too, man. Just got done having my Arby's because I love Arby's. If you're wondering who's keeping Arby's around,
Yeah, it's Ralph.
this guy.
Is that the cream? Is
Um,
that the orange cream shake? By the way, real quick.
Nah, it's that
Oh, oh,
Jamocha shape.
I mess with that.
Chef's kiss, chef's kiss. And before we get going, man, send a little shout out to the sponsors. If you want to do any music videos, podcasts like what you're watching, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707 Fit Boxer. Make sure you go on the socials. Like he said, we just wrapped up All NBA All Star Weekend. We're about to get into that as far as the recap in the next segment. But if you want any unbiased breakdown analysis, go to type tap on that camera app, Instagram, go in that search bar and type in the dot House of Hoops, and you're gonna see a bunch of clips. It's gonna be all types of breakdowns, analysis. We're gonna break down these. He's gonna break down these trades
Yeah.
if they have any
Um,
type of impact. There's 26 games left. So start heating up. I'm hurt because Lonzo is not going to play for the rest of the season. But I saw this coming
mm,
because of the Patrick Beverly signing. And we'll
true,
get
true,
into
true.
that in one of the later segments.
Okay.
But All Star Weekend just wrapped up, man. Um,
Mm.
there were some really highs, there were some really lows. In your personal opinion, if you had to scale it 1 through 10,
What would
what
I
are you
give it?
scaling the weekend as a whole?
Mm. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. The reason why I
Okay.
give it a 6 out of 10, because if you get a 6 out of 10 on the paper, you get a D, but you still passed, because D's not failing. You know what I'm saying? And so
Right.
I think for me, I give it a 6 out of 10 because I really didn't have a problem with the 3 point shootout contest. I actually enjoyed that. Shout out to Dame and shout out to you because you picked Dame. You picked
Yeah.
Dame. I picked everyone around Dame. So I mean, you know what I'm saying? So Kevin, I was like, yo, Kevin Hurt. I told everyone Kevin Hurt, a Maryland boy. Yeah, he gonna come in. Man, I was like, what? I gave him the Gary Coleman face. So yeah. But shout out to you, Dame. And I thought maybe he would get into a rhythm going into the All Star game. Maybe he could be hot. There was like 5 different people that could have won the All Star game MVP. I thought going into it, and then Jason Tatum breaking, you know, the record set by Anthony Davis. 52 points, he got 55, a double nickel. So there was another highlight, and then there was another highlight with Matt McClung, a G leaguer, somebody that we've never seen, right? Being able to do dunks like of that caliber, that was really really amazing. And I didn't see as many missed dunks in this dunk contest, even if some of them weren't as spectacular. I would say that the ones that were going through, like they weren't really missing their dunks as in contest pass. So I give it a 6 out of 10 only because I wish the game itself was more competitive, and I thought the skills competition, in my opinion, it was really really bad, Ralph. It was bad. The crowd wasn't in it, and I just didn't find it exciting. So I give it a 6 out of 10. Hopefully, I'm not being too harsh, but that's just my personal opinion.
I give it a 6.5. I think
Mm,
that the lackluster play of the because typically like the All Star game is not really that competitive until the fourth
Uh,
quarter.
Fourth quarter now, yeah,
But then it never was really that competitive in the fourth quarter. Like you didn't really see people trying to go out there and lock up
right.
and get the dub. And so that was one of the things that brought it down for me. But I do think that the dunk contest was exciting. I think that the 3 point contest was exciting. I thought the Rising Stars game
Oh
was
yeah, yeah,
interesting
yeah,
and
yeah.
intriguing as well.
Right,
I
right,
didn't
right,
get to
right.
watch every one of the games because they break it
Mhm.
down into like 4 to 6 smaller games to eventually get to a championship, like
Mhm.
tournament style in a sense. So I didn't really get to see all of it, but I got to see the final game, and it just looked like it. They look like they're trying, and they're actually trying to win. Where
Yeah.
like that All Star game just doesn't have that same intensity. But at the same time, then you got the celebrity game. The celebrity game was good in the
Yes.
way that ended,
Yeah.
and then that rising, and then it was the skills competition that just typically we're like, oh, this weekend wasn't that good. The dunk contest was trash. That's the first thing people talk about. But it was
Yeah.
like the dunk contest was good,
Mm-hmm.
but then
This
the
time.
skills competition was lackluster. Like, all right, bro, like what's going on here?
Yeah. And
And
John
so
Morant
I
needs to
think
do a
that
dunk contest too, by the way. John
say it
Morant. But
again.
go ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
But all in all, I definitely would say it was. I give it a 6.5, man. I thought it was a good weekend. I wouldn't say that this weekend was trash or that the All Star game was the worst. In any sense of the things, I've seen some of that going around. I think too quickly we throw out words
Reactionary.
like this is trash or like this is the worst ever. Like
But you watching it.
right, right. And so I think that's that. And we're gonna get into the dunk contest a little later. But I thought
Okay.
that Dame just is the whole 3-point contest in itself. We
Mm.
had Tyrese Halliburton, not your conventional jump shot, but he hits 32. Then Buddy
He hit
Hield, his
fire.
teammate, comes out catching fire. Then we got Dame is going up against two teammates,
Mhm.
and then Dame comes out the victor. So when Dame has been in a couple different 3-point contests, so it's good to see him finally be able to get one, especially after I've been picking him almost every year and keep losing. So this time I was right.
Mm.
But then switching up, man, we got the 2-minute drill, couple quick hitters. Um, the NFL draft is coming up, but this isn't just not quite. So we got a couple different things we want to announce with you guys on the 27th of every month up until the draft. We will be putting out and releasing a mock draft,
Mm-hmm.
Juke Boys mock draft. So you got a little less than a week. A week from yesterday, we will be dropping our first volume version of the NFL mock draft, strictly specifically focusing on round number 1. So now we got our sleeper. Who is your sleeper in the draft?
All right. So my draft sleeper. There's a couple different people that I could have went with, right? But in this time, I'm gonna go with the defensive side of the ball because that's what my city is known for, the Baltimore Ravens defense. All right. So I'm gonna actually go with uh Michigan man. Not regular Michigan, but Eastern Michigan. Ralph Jose Ramirez linebacker. You know me, I know something about linebackers. T Sizzle, Ray Lewis. Anyway. So yeah. Jose Ramirez, man, this dude, he's amazing. Has really, really good strength, really great power, really good vision. Some of the concerns, he's a sleeper because some people have some concerns with his quickness and anchoring on the in the defense. But he had 33 tackles for loss and he had 20 and a half sacks, Ralph. 155 career tackles, 12 sacks last season alone. This dude can do it all. He can play in pass coverage. He can rush the passer. He's very versatile. So I like Jose Ramirez out of not Michigan, but Eastern Michigan. There's been a couple of different guys on the defensive side of the ball, especially at the linebacker position in general. So this was actually not super easy for me because there was more players that I actually like thought about picking. I'm like, do I pick one? Do I pick two? You know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of linebacker depth for me in this draft. So I'm gonna go with Jose Ramirez.
And for me, man, I kind of struggled with this one because I was like, when I was talking to Tar about it, we were talking about our draft analysis, and he's someone we're definitely going to lean on when it comes to the draft coverage.
Yeah.
I was going back and forth with him, and I asked him for some sleepers, and I felt like a lot of the people he was like mentioning was people that like I felt was going to go in the first round. So I'm like, is that even necessarily a
Like
sleeper?
maybe late first round
Yeah,
people.
and so for
Yeah.
me, I'm gonna go with someone I've actually talked about. I talked about last week, if not the week before that.
Mhm.
I think it was last week when we talked about it was the week before that when we talked about Senior Bowl.
Mm,
And so
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think Jake Hayner, coming out of Fresno State, quarterback, who doesn't have the strongest arm, but he has the ability to read a defense. He's a proven leader at Fresno State. Accurate arm. He just the one thing that's going to make him fall is he doesn't have that Levy arm. He doesn't
Right.
have that big arm, Josh Allen arm talent that's going to make you go like, wow. He doesn't have this crazy mobility. So like a CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. So I think that he's going to slip into the draft where you could get him in that mid round area. But I think he has all of the talent in the world that you would all the intangible things that you would want from a quarterback to where I'm not saying that he's a future franchise quarterback, but
Mhm.
he's my sleeper pick that if I had to pick somebody, I trust him more than some of the quarterbacks that they have going in that first round.
How tall is he again? Do we get that? Was
I
he one of the
looked
shorter
it
ones? I thought
up. I want to say he
like
was
6'1".
still 6'1", 6'2", but let
Yeah,
me
because I think that was my only concern for like my own personal concern. Because I'm not saying they
six
can't
one.
play at this level, obviously. Because okay, 6'1", yeah. Because we seen Drew Brees, we seen oh boy, Russell Wilson. I think they have him at like 5'11", maybe whatever,
Yeah,
5'10". But yeah, so me personally, I always have concerns for those quarterbacks only because they always compare them to, hey, if you're not Drew Brees, right? Or you're not. I mean, you're like if you're not Drew Brees or you're not Russ, then like oh you're not anyone. But they hype Baker
right,
Mayfield up. So, but I'm not saying he's this guy that you're saying is hyped up. I was just saying like in terms of concerns, I understand why he's being considered as a sleeper also because people will always have questions over someone who's 6'1", which is pretty much like all right 6'1", 6'2". So they're like that's
right,
short in
right.
the NFL, a quarterback apparently. So because you got
And
to be considered
so
a lineman.
I'm curious to see what happens, man. I think that the draft
Yeah.
we're gonna get more deeper into it. So this one was just a quick hitter. We
All right.
moving over to we got Todd Monken, Eric
Mm.
Bieniemy
Mm.
brought in as offensive coordinators for Todd Monken got the Ravens job. Eric
Mhm.
Bieniemy got the Commanders job. Do you believe they are the right hire?
Okay. So I'm gonna do. For the quick hitter. I'm gonna do this. I'll go Todd Monken, and then I'll swing it back to you for Eric Bieniemy because Todd
For
Monken's
sure.
obviously with the Ravens. So all right. So Todd Monken, he actually had his introductory press conference today, guys. So I believe that this was the right hire, not just necessarily for Lamar Jackson, but if they move on from Lamar Jackson and potentially trade Lamar Jackson, we'll get into that. I'm sure maybe in another show whenever we actually have more details on that situation, because he's a guy who came from college, a winning program at Georgia, was instrumental in having back-to-back seasons. I know a lot of Ravens fans wanted Eric Bieniemy. I had my concerns or my question marks about Todd Monken, not very familiar with him. But what I do know and what I found out from his press conference and through digging and what other people are saying is he's someone who gets the most out of his playmakers. He was able to do it at Georgia, right? And he said in his press conference, he's like, I see no problem with a playmaker demanding the ball or wanting to have the ball. He threw shots at Jameis Winston, said, yeah, we threw the ball a lot when I was in Tampa. Sometimes we threw it so much, we threw it to the other team. So he kind of has a little streak to him, a little pettiness to him. But he said that the fullback, the fullback is pretty much being obsolete and xed out. So I look at Patrick Ricard and how Greg Roman relied on Patrick Ricard. And I saw tape and I'm like, I see no tape of him using his fullback at Georgia. He just doesn't use the fullback. So I feel like what he's been known from what the NFL players that know of him, right? And his time in Georgia and other places is if you give him a personnel set, Ralph, right? If it's two tight ends and a receiver, or if it's four wide receivers, whatever your personnel is, he's going to cater to or appease to said personnel, right? So you want to get the best players, but even if you don't have the best players, he's going to pretty much run with what you have. So that's good. So he's not going to force what they call like a circle and a square box or a square and a circle box, right? And then he said he talked about his time with Odell Beckham Jr. and because you remember he was at under Freddie Kitchens as well in Cleveland, and he's like, I loved Odell, and he said he was actually a fan, and he said he would love to bring Odell in if that would be possible. Obviously, he has no control over that, so I think just in terms of his innovative mind, his ability to make the most out of what's on his plate, I think he could be a good hire for if Lamar stays or if Lamar goes and you bring in another young quarterback. So we'll
And I
see.
think
It's a wait and see.
I do think
Yeah.
it's a wait and see, but at the same time,
Yeah.
it does make a lot of sense because it is one of those things that
Mm.
regardless of who's at quarterback, you have an offensive mind who was able to get a lot out of a lesser quarterback. So you can see what,
Yeah.
and then the what's it called, the how you said pretty much he wasn't Greg Roman, where Greg Roman was going to run this offense regardless of who's here. Now you have someone based on the personnel. This is what I'm going to run, and so I think that that right there is one of those things that if the financial part can match what Lamar is looking for, I don't see why Lamar is not able to thrive in this offense.
Hmm.
But we will see. At the same time, Eric Bieniemy going over to from Kansas City going to Washington, in the sense, I understand why a lot of people feel like it's a lateral move, but I feel like it's not because the one thing that was holding him back, outside of him just being black, from getting a head coaching job was the fact that, oh, well, everybody believes that the things that are great about Kansas City's offense, that it's Andy Reid.
Hmm.
And he's never going to be able to get from under that shadow playing underneath Andy Reid. And so or calling plays or being underneath Andy Reid. So I think him going to Washington, Washington has a great defense, offensive weapons. They just need a quarterback. Honestly, this
Yeah.
might be another show, but or we talked about this before. If now that we know that that's who the OC is, if I'm Derek Carr, that's where I'm going.
Ooh. Okay. I see. I see. Yeah. Him and you get Jack Del Rio as the I think with a DC or something like that on the other side.
Right.
I like it. And to
And
Scary Terry. I
so
like it. I
and I
like it.
think that like you got Brian Robinson, you got Scary Terry, you got Jahan
Mm.
Dotson, you got
Mm.
Curtis Samuel. They have
Oh,
weapons,
he was big for me in fantasy.
right?
Yeah. So I have to say that.
Brian Robinson came back and held it down for me, got me all the way back,
Yep.
got me all the way to a
Resurrected
fantasy
your squad.
football.
Playoff or championship?
Yeah, and
My
then
bad.
and so next up we got NIL deals came into
Mhm.
effect a couple years ago. There was a high amount of underclassmen coming into the draft. Now, ever since the NIL deals, the underclassmen has cut down from where it was like 130. Now it's at 88 this past year.
Mm.
Is this a coincidence?
I think it's tied. I think it's not tied. I think it's
Hey, bro,
correlated.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
let you go crazy because I think my daughter's
Okay.
mother's here to pick her up later. So
Okay. Yeah. No problem.
talk
Yeah.
for me,
No
and I'll be
problem.
right back.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's definitely a correlation when we look at uh, the substantial drop off or substantial drop off, the substantial decrease that's occurred due to the NIL deals when we talk about underclassmen and them not necessarily entering the draft. That's one of those situations where you have to see something and you have to see a certain trend and you have to follow the actual trend. So when there's a trend of something that was going on in the past and then now you implement a different type of scenario, then you're not going to see those same types of players, underclassmen, and et cetera, that are going to wind up being in those types of positions when we talk about the draft and we talk about the NFL. So I think there's definitely a type of correlation between those things, and it's going to be very interesting to see how, like in the future, that continues if it's going to be something that winds up continuing. So anytime you make such a major change or such a drastic change like that, you're gonna obviously you have to expect some type of shakeup at the top, right? So that's going to be where we wind up moving on forward to, and this is going to be a very interesting scenario moving forward when we talk about the NILs. Excuse me, guys. When we talk about the NIL deals, and why they put these different types of play these different types of things in place when we talk about the college athletes. And you have to, and for those guys who don't know what NIL is, right? It's name, image, and likeness, which NIL refers to the way a college athletes can receive compensation. So using the athlete's NIL would involve a brand leveraging their name, image, and or likeness through marketing and or promotional, right? So yeah, but broadly speaking, I actually pulled it up because I was actually trying to find out the salary, right, the income. This is broadly speaking, the average income from NIL deals for student athletes ranges from 1,000 to $10,000. However, we've seen cases where some athletes have earned a whole lot more than that. So that's this little quick breakdown, guys, for in terms of what the NIL is, and also what a deal would wind up being, anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 for cases that involve this thing. So yeah, and we're back in the saddle.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I was
yeah,
actually
yeah. We all back, man. My daughter just got
yeah.
picked up, so we
All
back
right,
in
all
this
right.
thing. But yeah, man, I think that is. I don't think it's a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's happening the way that it's supposed to happen. And
Yeah.
I thought that this was one of those things where, like, I got to get to the bag if I'm coming from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they're giving me money where I don't have to come out early, I can stay in college, tune my skills, and eventually become a higher draft pick or even have more of an impact later on
Yep.
in the league. Sorry, I'm out of breath.
No, you good. You good.
But
Breathe,
I,
as
I
Fab would
think that
say.
this I think this is exactly the way things are supposed to be going. I think that
Yeah.
it's not a coincidence. I think that players are getting these big bags
Mm.
in college, so there's no need to have to leave early. So if I
Mm-hmm.
could be the man on campus, still make six figures, why would I leave?
All right.
And so I think that this is one of those things we're going to continue to see this trend. I don't know if we're going to see it continue to fall.
Yeah, yeah. That's gonna be the thing.
I don't know about seeing the trend fall, but I do see this trend continue to stay. I think it's going to
For the
stay at
near
a lower
future.
number.
Yeah, for the near future. Definitely.
And so, fast break, man. We got some breaking news
Yes, yes, yes.
reported not too long ago, a couple hours ago. Nate McMillan will no longer be the coach of the Atlanta Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
It's so new, wasn't able to put it in as a topic. So it's just
Yeah,
going to leave it at fast break.
yeah.
But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Are you surprised?
I'm not surprised because there was dissension amongst Trey Young and Nate McMillan this season. It's unfortunate because they did have their first Eastern Conference Finals appearance since I think when Al Horford was there back in the day. I'm not sure. I think they might have made it back in the day, but so I'm not really surprised. But like I said, this is fresh, as fresh to me as it is to you. But since then they're I want to say like 2 games below 500 going into the All Star break when we went to the All Star break. But other than that, Nate McMillan is a good coach. He just hasn't really gotten over that hump. So we'll see how it turns out. But there was dissension amongst Trey Young and Nate McMillan reported during the season. So we'll see what else comes out. See what Woj says. But yeah,
I think the thing for me, man, is that I'm not surprised. Like you said, we've both kind of come to an agreement that Nate McMillan is a good coach.
yeah,
It may be one of those things where he just didn't fit for this group of guys, or maybe I mean it could be a thing where he's not fitting. He might not fit with the way players are wired today,
mm-hmm.
and it sucks to see him go. But at the same time, business is business, and you got to move on if
Yeah,
things aren't working. And so
absolutely.
next thing, Brittney Griner signs a 1-year deal with the Phoenix Mercury. We have talked about Liberty's new big three. We've talked about Ace's new big three. Her coming back, signing this 1 year deal, puts her back with Diana Taurasi, who came back for another few years,
Mhm.
puts her along with Skylar Diggins Smith. And then now we got the big three of Griner,
Mhm.
Smith, Taurasi. Is this enough for them to compete in the West?
Um, they compete. They can compete. Definitely they can compete. So to just answer that question, they'll definitely be able to compete. They have a rapport. They have a chemistry. And that's going to be really key, right? It's going to come down to obviously health, um, physical, but also with all due respect, also mental, right? So I don't. I'm not picking them to win. I know you're not picking them to win. I believe it's going to be between the Aces and the Liberty, right? The super teams in the super team era. But as someone who actually like as you as well, we're people who genuinely care about the mental well-beings of athletes. This is going to be something where like the way of living. There's going to be a period of orientation. There's going to be a period of adjustment. Who knows how much she really will adjust? Yeah, she could play right on the court, but who knows what home life or what different types of pressures and stuff she may feel or endure is just different because she really was the team guys for 10 months in a Russian prison, right? So that is the type of thing that I'm just hoping for her just to be seeing her out on the court is a level of success, a level of freedom, right? And she signed a 1 year contract. I have it. It was 1 year, $160,000. Um, led the Mercury to WNBA Finals, obviously in 2021. Hence the question: can they, contend and stuff like that? But I think that she's going to be also because of her story and her situation, she's going to come through with it with endorsements as well. People will really get behind her. So I think that mentally, I'm just hoping that mentally, that everything can be okay. But I do know that she has the support of Tarazi and the rest of her teammates. And so just having that support system is going to be key in just getting through the regular season, the course of the regular season. So as far as talent, Ralph, they definitely have the talent to compete, and I just hope that everything works out well for Grinder and her family. So
I do too, man.
yeah,
It's one of those things. I want to see him do well, but I don't want to see him do that well because I'm an Aces
yeah,
fan. And
they got
and
a chip
so
too, 1-1.
right, right.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to see the Aces go back to back, but I do think this puts them in a
Mhm.
position to where if she can come back in, get her feet underneath her legs underneath
Yeah,
her, um, and get her feet wet, she can really do damage because at what was she 6'7", 6'8",
6'8". Yeah,
like that
you'd be a
already
bucket
puts
cutter.
you
Yeah,
in a certain area where like there's not too many people that are going to be able to stand toe to toe with you. So
right.
now with Asia Wilson, she's 6'5", Candace Parker is
Mhm.
6'3".
Mhm.
You're not really going to put yourself in a position of where you can bang with her, but you got multiple bodies that are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" that you can throw at her to tire her out. Where now at a certain point, I don't think she's shown that she can guard out on the perimeter, which is where Asia has a really good face-up game.
Yeah, best in the league in my opinion.
And so I think that it's definitely going to be one of those things where I think we're most likely going to end up running into them to get to
Mhm.
the finals, unless another team comes out of nowhere. But this is a team that I can see being our matchup to get to the finals.
Yeah, because Seattle, like Seattle's disbanded, so
Yeah,
there we go. I know it's
right.
amazing.
We'll see. We'll
Yeah,
see. Make
yeah.
sure you look into your tickets out here in
Mhm.
Vegas. Season
Yep.
tickets is starting at $200,
It's
and
good.
that gets you into 20 home games. Just
That's
want to put
that's a
that
lot
out
of
there.
home games.
20. You get 20 home games. It's like $10 a game, and there's no bad seat in the house if you've ever been into one of the Aces games. Next up, my man Money Mac, Money Mac McClung. Um, this is the thing for me, and this topic came is because I see people asking this question or putting this up on Twitter, and you know how Twitter is. Twitter people will say some wild stuff,
Right,
but
right.
it got me. It was enough comments where it got me to ask the question like, do
Mhm.
you think race played a part in us looking at this and being like, did we look at these and say, hey, these are great dunks, or are these great dunks for a white boy?
I'll put it like this. it played a part for all those who actually cared about that particular thing, if that makes sense, right? Because there's people who
Right.
really do care about that type of stuff, but also just as jokingly, right? It's always the white men can't jump in the movie and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Right.
we think about it, but like if we're thinking about it, we're at least for me, like I'm not thinking about it in anything like malicious or anything like that. It's like, oh yeah, white men can jump, and people get in on the joke and all that kind of stuff, right? And so I think out of just fun and gesture, right? So let's not, be sensitive guys or anything like that. It's nothing malice or anything like that. But overall, I thought just the G League, him being a G leaguer, him doing something that for us, Ralph, like we'd never seen before in a dunk contest at the NBA level, and from someone who's not an NBA, a household name, a superstar, or a bench player, right? So that was, I think it was a combination for me. It's a combination of everything that I think is what shocked people or drew people in. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
I'm really
As we
happy
put
for him.
some of these dunks up here, like
Yeah,
just
yeah, you got him.
look at some of these dunks that he's doing. It's
Mm-hmm. This I think this is going to be because he did three of the three different dunks, and obviously we had the game winner. So shout out
and
to our
the
homie
the
Tar too.
the
Double
double
pump,
pump, bro.
head
The
almost the
double
rim,
pump.
bro.
That was the one that had me like, what? And then the 540, I was just like, yo, this
Yeah,
dude is crazy.
right. And he oh
And
wait, remember he's 6'2".
exactly. And I think, and I really genuine, I think they're giving him a generous 6'2" to keep it a buck with you,
Right, right, right. So
because you know how the NBA is. Like I remember
yeah.
who I'm trying to think. I think I want to say it was Chris Paul, and I was like, I was measured at 5'10". Now
Yeah,
I
yeah,
say I'm 6 foot,
yeah.
but in high school I was measured at 5'10",
Right,
and
right, right.
I ran into him somewhere, and I was eye to eye with him,
Mm. And
and
what
so
they list him at 6 feet.
and they list him at 6 foot.
You look like you're taller than Chris Paul though, by at least an inch.
Right, right. And so I think
Oh,
that it's one of those things that him being
he
six
might be.
six two,
Yeah.
I feel it's a generous 6'2", but at the same
Mhm.
time, that double pump,
Yeah.
or I guess you could call it a triple pump in a sense, because they already say this is a double pump.
Right,
But
right.
that was the one that was like, oh, this dude is different. But then
Mm.
because I didn't actually see it, I see the highlight of the reverse 360 windmill.
Right, right, right.
But then the bounce off the glass with the dunk,
The
the
core strength it
360,
takes to do that type of stuff too.
yeah. And
That's
I
what
think
people have
that
to
like,
understand.
and it's
Core
one of those
strength.
things for me. Once I saw that he was in it,
Right, right, right.
I was already excited because 5 years ago, 6 years ago, people always talk about Zion, but
Mm.
his dunks were just as viral,
Mm-hmm. They were.
if not maybe more viral, because it was like, yo, who's this white boy coming out of nowhere dunking like
Yeah.
this?
High school phenom for
Exactly.
his dunks. For his dunks.
Which it got him all the way up until he got a scholarship at Georgetown.
Right.
From there, it didn't really pan out, but then he played at Texas Tech. Texas Tech ended up
Yep.
winning the championship that year.
Yep. Lakers signed him
Or
to I think it's the summer league team too, or something, or the something
exactly.
like that.
And
Yeah.
then he balled out for the Warriors summer league team too. Is just the fact that they have so many guards. So it's like no
Mm-hmm.
place for him to really be able to flourish in that
Yeah.
backcourt. So, which leads us to the next topic: should more G leaguers participate in All Star Weekend? And
Okay.
I'm gonna take the reins on this one
Yeah.
because
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I believe they should.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it is a cool idea, and it could take away from some charm for some people who should be there. But if we're
Mm-hmm.
not gonna get the people
Mm-hmm.
that we want to see it, at some point we got to get people that deserve it.
Mm.
And a lot of the times, G leaguers are in the G League not because they don't have athletic ability or they can't shoot. It's because other things. There's politics involved. There's height issues involved. There's how how much of a defensive liability are you? We got Pierre Jackson who came into the league, wasn't drafted, but in the spurts that we saw, he was able to ball out and actually be able to be a bucket getter. But because he's anywhere from 5'8" to 5'10", we're gonna look at him and be like, nah, he's too small to be in the league. But does he have a strap? Yes, he does. We're looking at Mac McClung. Came in, dominated the dunk contest, but he's only played in 2 NBA games.
Right.
And so I don't think that people that are in the G League are there because they don't have talent. I think there's other things that are involved or in play. So I think that they should get the opportunity to participate in All-Star Weekend, because prior we always got our superstars to be in these events. If we're not
Yeah.
getting our superstars to be in these dunk contests, then we got to have somebody that's going to bring some excitement. If we're not going to just get rid of it altogether, which I don't ever want to see that happen, because you can go on YouTube. There's so many creative dunkers. Get somebody in here.
Yeah. So my stance on it is this, and then I'll tie it in. So I agree with you to an extent in the fact that I believe that if you're not going to get stars, the all stars to do it, then get someone who is going to do it so you can put on something for the fans. And it goes back to my original point with the All Star Weekend, right? It's called the NBA All Star Weekend. It's for the star of stars. It's for the All Stars. It's for those NBA players who earned their spot as an All Star, right? And I'm sure there's contract incentives, just like there's All NBA and stuff like that. And back in the day, people took that seriously, right? And it's an honor, right? And we know players today who like actually being an All Star, right? So I do believe that it should be focused in on the stars because of what the weekend represents, but it's also for the fans. So I feel like it just kind of brings shines more light on the fact that we just don't have those stars participating in the dunk contest. So that being said, though, that being said, there's no disrespect to G leaguers, right? If you've ever been to an NBA G League dunk contest or seen them on YouTube, whatever like that, they're actually really, really good. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just people who didn't make the NBA or maybe are waiting to get into the NBA or been sent down, et cetera, if they were on the roster. You know what I'm saying? It's the G League, right? So if you're a G Leaguer, we talked about this in the past, you're not a bad basketball player. You can beat
Oh
a
God.
whole lot of people in the country if you make the NBA G League, and you're probably athletic and et cetera, right? So the NBA being the G League being an extension of the NBA, right? As it used to be developmental and all that kind of stuff. It's part of the NBA. So why not? I think if you do that though, maybe just change the name of it. I know it's getting technical, but maybe just change the name. Don't call it the All Star Dunk Contest, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And then just let them do it. And then maybe that will instill some type of fire or competitive fervor in some of these all stars, like a John Morant, who constantly decide to tease us in the all star contest with three different dunks, three different styles of dunks, and you don't get in the dunk contest, right? So I don't have a problem with it. Like I don't mind seeing it because this dunk contest went well. You know what I'm saying? So we have film, we have data, we have excitement from me and you from the fans. They really enjoyed it. So if
Right.
that's the way that you have to generate excitement and ratings for a league that's gone down in ratings drastically, why not? So I agree. It's just unfortunate that we can't get the stars like Zion
Yeah.
Williamson and John Murray.
And that's a conversation I was having with my brother, because
Yeah.
Stephen A came out and criticizing LeBron James for not
Here we go.
joining the dunk contest.
I
And
knew
some people
Stephen.
feel like he's tripping, but I do
Yeah.
see where he's coming from, because
Yes.
we
Yes.
had the David Thompsons going up against
Mhm.
the likes of a Julius Irvin. We had Michael Jordan and Dominique Wilkins, who were the premier wings at their positions as far as athleticism
Yeah.
during that time. Then we have the Isaiah Riders, we have the Kobe Bryants, the Harold
Kobe.
Miners,
Harold Miner.
Vince Carter, T Mac,
Mm.
Jason Richardson, Desmond Mason. Like, we
Chris
have
Birdman
those.
Anderson.
Yeah, we
Hey, he was
have
in it though. He was in it though.
we have
Hey.
those people that were like the top at their position, if not arguably, and they were in these dunk contests. Then you get LeBron, and LeBron is known as a dunker, but then he just doesn't join the dunk contest.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, at some point, I get it. You don't have to do it,
Hmm.
but we would love to see Ja, Anthony Edwards, as well as a Zion in this dunk contest. Like, I think at some point the league has to do something if they're not getting those stars, and that's why I do get where you're coming from. It is the G League
Yeah,
versus this is the NBA All Star game, but
but yeah.
at some point, hey, you got just gotta go out there and hoop, bro,
Hey, and last
and
quick point, real
create some
quick.
excitement.
Last quick point. Even Michael Jordan participated in the 3 point contest. It was horrible, but he did it. So
Right.
we aren't going to talk about that.
And next up, we got a few signings after some buyouts. We got a few signings. So first off,
Yeah.
Kevin Love to the
Okay.
Miami Heat.
Mhm.
We talked about Miami Heat as far as losers in the trade deadline. Maybe they knew this was something that they were
Mhm.
going to be able to get, so there was no reason for us to make a trade. On a scale of 1 to 10, how you feeling about this signing?
This is like a 6 or a 7. Actually, I actually like this signing. Some people might be like, "Oh, Kevin Love. Why Kevin Love or whatever?" Right? And we know he's a former All Star, etc. But he brings someone one who's a tremendous rebounder, a great playmaker, right? And he's actually Ralph, right? He's replacing PJ Tucker in a weird way. In a weird way. So like replacing PJ Tucker. The reason why they bring them in, because remember, okay, so you have the PJ Tucker role, 6'6", whatever, but now you get a guy who's like what, 6'10", 6'11", a rebounder.
Right,
PJ Tucker can rebound. What was PJ Tucker known for? Defense in that corner three. Kevin Love is a great corner three 3 point shooter, but what he does, unlike PJ Tucker, is he brings another element of playmaking. So now your rebounding goes up with a Kevin Love and a Bam Adebayo. You get a floor spacer, and you bring someone with finals experience in Kevin Love, who's been to multiple NBA finals, and he can easily ingratiate into that Heat culture, and he's a good teammate, right? So you have guys like Jimmy Butler, Eric Spoelstra, and everything. So like when I sat back and looked at it, because I didn't think it was a horrible move. Some people were like, "Why did they make the move?" And I was like, oh, "Okay, so you get a little more offense, you get a little more rebounding." I think he's either the same age as PJ or maybe a couple years younger than PJ, maybe.
he's younger
But
because me and him
he's
graduated
younger.
the same year.
Oh, okay. Okay. So yeah, he's younger than PJ Tucker. So I think it's a solid move. I give it like a 6 or a 7. The only thing is defensively, Kevin Love, he can play some defense, but he's gonna probably get attacked. But
Yeah,
he was thought that maybe he could get a little more minutes than he was getting in Cleveland. So maybe at times he could start, but if anything, he'll be a 6 man in that 6 man role. So it's not a bad signing. Something solid.
right.
You know.
And then next up, that man Russ, after
Oh
being
boy.
traded to the Jazz, it has been said that he will get a buyout. I don't think there's any 100% confirmation on the terms of the buyout,
Mm-hmm.
but it is saying he is being bought out and that he will
Yeah.
sign with the Clippers.
Yeah.
Now I know
Um.
this is these are your boys to a certain degree,
Yeah,
so
to
I'm gonna
some
let you
degree, my
take this one.
boys. Right. They somehow wanted to become Clippers. I actually kind of want your take on this too. So there's pros and cons, but I'll try to keep it. I'll give you a condensed version because me and you, we know what Russ is. I've said it multiple times. My only issue is he doesn't play what I consider championship level basketball. I think that's the issue. That's going to be the end result, Ralph. Is you're trying to win a championship. Otherwise, the team's blowing up. You're moving into a new arena. This is year 4, right? Is he going to get you the championship? I don't believe so. However, I'm not here to talk negatively about Russ. How about we talk positively, or should I say, highlight some of the positives? I'm not. We're not here to play low lights like ESPN over and over and over again. We're not here to call out his family, whatever. I think this is actually the best team Russ has been on in the last 5 years. I think he's never been on his situation with the Lakers is completely different. They were devoid of floor spacers. Now you're going on it to a team that arguably has the most floor spacers in the league outside of maybe a Boston or a Golden State. So you're spacing the floor out, right? They needed someone who could run in transition and up their transition pace because they were like close to last in transition. Russ addresses that. He has chemistry, rapport, and relationship with Paul George. Okay, you got that, and you have Ty Lue, who has been instrumental in resurrecting players' careers, such as a Reggie Jackson, such as a Nicholas Batum, who was vocal in advocating for getting Russell Westbrook. So I think he landed in the best place out of the options that he had, be it Chicago or be it um of Miami, right? So he's surrounded by shooters. So all he has to do is beat one guy and get to the basket and finish. finish games, and he was willing to take a six-man role or a bench role, excuse me, with the Los Angeles Lakers. So I think that from that standpoint, it's a little bit different than John Wall, despite the stats being pretty much the same in terms like all the advanced metrics. And people like it's redundant because I still think it's somewhat redundant. I think John Wall didn't pan out only for this reason. Not ego. I don't want to say ego, but his willingness not to realize that, Wall, you're not that guy anymore, bro. You know what I'm saying? From
Yeah,
the interview he had on the shop to the interview he had about his time in Houston, right? So I think Russ, he's like, oh, this is my last chance, and I want to stick it to the Lakers. So that's from the positive angle. I just don't believe that it's going to get them ultimately, Ralph, to the championship because it's the Clippers, man.
right.
So yeah, what do you think? I try to give some of the positives like to it.
For me, man, I think that
I give it like a 6-2, maybe. I don't know.
I
Like
give
a
it an
6-2.
eight, bro,
Oh, eight. Okay, okay, yeah.
because I think that he's played with PG.
Mm-hmm.
I
Had a good
think
season.
I feel like at some point, once you have familiarity with someone,
Mm,
I think that it makes the conversations, the honest conversations that you can have. We heard about what happened in LA.
yeah.
So Russ, you are no longer you are. There's no team that you can go on that's going to be a contender that you're going to go on and be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at the reports, it's been reported that the conversation that they had with Russ is you are playing in a complementary role.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's true.
so I think that energy, intensity, rebounding, playmaking. With Russ, you just got to take the good with the bad when it comes to the playmaking. He's going to make some good plays, but then he's going to have some moments where, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's shooters all over the floor. There's
Tons.
playmakers all over the floor. You got Bo Tyler that can create his own shot. You got Russ create his own shot. PG, Kawhi, Mark, Markieff Morris, depending on
Oh yeah.
who he's matched on. But you got 38 or higher 3-point shooters at 4 or 5 different players to play with Russ.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is one of those things you can't compare the situation because the personnel is different.
Facts.
PG can catch and shoot. Kawhi can catch and shoot. Where the the best players on the team that he played on needed the ball in their hands.
And they held on to it too longer.
Exactly. So I think that for me, man, I'm gonna give it an 8. And on this last
Okay.
one, my man, Mr. Westside himself is going back
Uh,
to Chi-Town, baby.
you take the
Patrick
lead on that
Beverly
one.
is
You take
signing
the
with
lead
the
on that one.
Bulls. I'm not gonna go too crazy with it because
Okay.
it's
Pat
not
Bev.
like they're getting
Gary
it's not
Payton.
like they're getting Derrick Rose or someone of
Okay.
that
Gary,
talent.
okay.
But I
Okay.
think mentality alone,
Oh yeah, Chicago. Yeah.
with his
Yeah.
will, he's gonna be playing in front of his hometown team. So he's gonna play to a certain level that I
Mm.
believe he's gonna require the rest of the team to
Right.
play
Right.
at a
Right.
certain level.
Yeah.
And I think that you have talent on the team. Is where's the heart?
Mm.
Are we gonna hoop or are we not gonna hoop?
Mm.
And I think that Patrick Beverly can go in there and if he was able to do what he was able to do with Minnesota,
Right.
I feel like this team has more talent.
Oh yeah. I think you guys are deeper.
Yeah,
I
I
think
feel
you
like
guys
we're
are
deeper.
deeper.
Like I feel like that team has Cat and Anthony Edwards,
Right.
and then it's Rudy Gobert and a drop off. Where I feel like you can
Yeah.
go Vooch, you can go Zach, Demar, Caruso, Kobe,
Yeah.
Io.
Yeah.
I feel like there's just a certain amount of depth.
That they
You just
have
need that heart. Like, are they
that
gonna
make
play
more
with that
sense.
type of heart that you're gonna need?
No, I pretty much my piece is quick and short. About the talent thing, I think Anthony Edwards is going to be a superstar, guys. But we're going to
Yes,
get to that. Maybe we'll do a whole segment on that one day down the future. I think he's going to be a superstar. I really do. There's something different about that kid. But
he ain't there yet though.
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say Pat Bev, I agree with everything you said. I want to see can he light that fire in Zach Levine,
Yeah,
that fire. So yeah, if he can do that, oh, it's on. Finish the second
facts.
half strong. Finish the second half strong, man.
And
So
then we got a couple different. We are going, like we said before, we are going to be leading into free agency. We are going to be leading into the draft. So now we're gonna break down NFL needs
break
by
down,
division.
break it down. All right,
So
so
first off,
yeah, okay, okay. So first, there's the Cardinals. I'm sorry, I'm over here being busy bone and crazy bone.
but NFC
Bro,
West,
Arizona
what
Cardinals,
what is the
set it off.
biggest need that the Cardinals need to make?
Okay, Arizona Cardinals. The biggest need they need to do is win a playoff game. But anyway, no, and maybe get a backup quarterback because I don't know what their quarterback situation is. But pass rusher, man. You lose a J.J. Watt. Your pass rush was struggling. You have some age in the offensive line as well. I think you have like two left tackles, and then I want to say on the center, but they're all old, long on the tooth. So yeah, pass rusher and O line, but mainly pass rusher. You need a pass rush. Hassan Reddick's no longer there. You need a pass rush. So that's it. So I'm gonna keep that one short and sweet for the sake of time. What say you? You want to do Cardinals? Or you want to go to the next team?
I
Let me
agree with
look.
you on the pass rush, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on that one.
Okay.
When it comes to Seattle,
Ooh,
I think the
Seattle.
same thing. You know what's crazy? I think the same thing with them
Mm-hmm.
because I think Geno Smith played as well as he could, and what I think he played as well as you can expect from any quarterback
Mm.
because he has the talent at running back, he has the talent at receiver. Maybe grab a tight end, but I feel like their tight end is a good young talent.
Yeah.
Um, I think that they're good when it comes to the DBs, but I would probably say get some linebacker help and and pass rush help.
Okay.
And
I
then
agree with that.
if you ain't got nothing else to say, I
Yeah.
say go
So
on the
49ers.
Ram.
Oh, Rams. Okay,
We'll
let's
save
go
the
Rams.
Niners for last because I feel like they don't really need much.
Okay. So the Rams offensive line. You don't have Whitworth anymore. He's been retired, right? So he retired. David Edwards is hitting free agency, so you lose some depth as well. You got destroyed by the Buffalo Bills in opening night. When it was the defending Super Bowl champions versus the favorites, the Vegas favorites. Obviously, that is they have a pass rush, they have Von Miller, etc. We understand that, but since then, they've looked horrendous, horrible all year. Matthew Stafford not having time to throw. Bobby Wagner, Jalen Ramsey, even though he didn't have his best year, but Bobby Wagner, Jalen Ramsey, and Aaron Donald, they played like they were stars. So their defense on the defensive side of the ball, I'm not worried about your defense. You need to fix your offensive line. And obviously they went all in, Ralph, as we know, to get that Super Bowl. And I have no problem with doing it because Super Bowl happens once every year. The playoffs happen all the time. So you only get one chance to get a Super Bowl in a season. So I don't have a problem with them going all in their approach, but they just need to address their offensive line, Ralph. So that's what I got with the Rams.
And
Rams.
then them 49ers, man.
Bang, bang, Niner gang.
I just feel like with them it's gonna boil down to money
Yes.
because now when it comes to those young pieces on defense,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna need to figure that out because Kittle got his bread,
Mm-hmm.
Trent's paid, Debo just got his bread.
Mm-hmm.
McCaffrey's probably gonna look to. He should be coming up on a deal soon, and then you got Fred Warner coming up on a deal. You
Fred
got
Warner.
Nick Bosa coming up on a deal. So I think that with them, I think the way that they disperse their money is gonna be the biggest need for them because I think that they found their quarterback. It's just
Mm-hmm.
can Trey Lance raise that ceiling?
So you believe in the quarterback competition in the offseason?
Yeah,
I mean, in
because I
training
think
camp.
that Purdy showed that he could be a very
Yeah.
valuable quarterback. So
Yeah.
you have one.
Right.
What
I just
can
want
you
to see
get
him
from this
compete.
one?
Right.
And then at that point, you can use draft capital or trade value to be
Mm-hmm.
able to get other pieces.
Okay. Yeah. For me, believe it or not, guys, and they had a great defense. I believe they were ranked what #1 this year in defense.
Yes.
Obviously, and they were ranked #1 defense, and yet the Eagles destroyed that defense. So I know there are some injuries and stuff to the quarterback. Okay, but I'm actually going interior D line. So I do agree with the money, but I'm going interior D line. Why? Because Javon Kinlaw did not adequately replace the loss of DeForest Buckner. If you guys remember, they traded away DeForest Buckner for, I believe it was the 14th pick in that 2020 draft. That 14th pick in that 2020 draft was a player by the name of Javon Kinlaw, who, whatchamacallit, they couldn't afford to pay DeForest Buckner $20 million per year. So they get Javon Kinlaw in the draft, a young guy. Obviously, there's time to develop and all that kind of stuff, but he looked bad and he got moved constantly, Ralph, all over the field by the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. Well, you could be like, well, the Philadelphia Eagles have a great offensive line. Yeah, it's crazy. How do you have Lane Johnson and Kelsey and like that's not even fair, right? But
Right.
you're a great defense. You have Bosa, you have Warner, you have edge guys, you have all these pieces, but your interior is key because what do we say, right? Me and you were talking about how it's one in the trenches, and that's the reason why we felt that the Eagles would win, you know, the Super Bowl. But in the NFC, having a guy like a Jordan Davis, who I believe he was still injured and stuff like that, and he didn't really play. You want to always be prepared for the team that you believe you could see again, and they're going to want to get their revenge. So I think just shoring that up, maybe getting a veteran in free agency if you have some money, maybe trading one of those quarterbacks, Ralph, like you said, to get that position addressed. But other than that, I think just money and shoring up some of that interior D line for me for the 49ers, and I think they'll be okay.
And I agree with you, man. I could definitely see that because as much as those 49ers players try to say, oh, well, if we had the quarterback, it'd be this,
No,
this,
they
this,
got
and
beat.
this. There was still, what was it, 28 points was put up.
Yep. Give Jalen Hurts his credit, man. He got beat.
And so I think that it's just one of those things where you just sound a little salty after
Yo, they
losing.
the kicker too. I was like, yo, where's this hate? Just pure salt and hate. What?
But next week we're gonna be breaking down the NFC South, uh,
Yeah.
and then work our way throughout the divisions, the conferences, and all the way till we are done. We should be wrapping up with. I ain't gonna say we'll wrap up with the divisions by the time the draft happens, but we're gonna do
Dude,
each team week by week up until we get to that point. But
stop.
make sure you go on Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, at KYNGRALPH, add an underscore for Twitter. Like I said before, go on Instagram, look on your phone, type on that camera app, go on that IG app, type in at the.house of hoops. We just finished up with the All-Star weekend. Second
Yes,
half of the
sir.
season is heating up. Buyouts have happened. Players are signed, like we just got done talking about. So some major heat is about to come our way. LeBron said he's going to try to play every game to try to get his
Mm,
team in that play in.
mm.
Once
We'll
you're in the big dance, anything can happen.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Make sure you go on Facebook, YouTube, type in the He Say She Say channel. Actually, on YouTube, it's actually now Joint Universal Creatives with a K, or you can type in J.U.K.media as well. On Facebook, it's still the He Say She Say channel. We're in the process of changing that around. But outside of that, thank you all for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. We'll holla at you. Salute.
Peace.
And man, like outside of this camera angle,